Hi there. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into a chilling and unsettling journey as I narrate a couple of disturbing true Memorial Day horror stories. These tales are not for the faint of heart, so grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and prepare yourself for some spine-tingling experiences that have left an indelible mark on those who lived through them. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends. Now then, let's get started.
Story 1. The Haunted Lake Cabin.
The humid North Carolina air clung to Jack like a second shirt as he navigated the winding roads with the help of a glitchy GPS. It was Memorial Day weekend, and Jack, Emma, Matt, and Tom were heading for a lakefront getaway they hoped would be pure bliss. Packed into Matt's old Ford, they were excited for bonfires and karaoke by the lake. Jack, known for finding great Airbnb spots, had discovered a secluded cabin on the shore of Lake Serenity. The pictures promised a large deck with a view of the glassy water, a fire pit perfect for ghost stories, and plenty of chairs for everyone to relax. It seemed like the perfect spot for their weekend retreat. The gravel road led them through towering pines, sunlight creating an eerie pattern through the dense trees. The GPS struggled, its voice becoming less confident with each turn. Finally, they reached a weathered mailbox marking the entrance. Jack retrieved the hidden key as instructed, feeling a strange sense of unease, like unseen eyes were watching. The cabin appeared from the woods, looking like a rustic dream. Laughter erupted as they explored the deck, the view of the lake taking their breath away. The tranquility was intoxicating, a stark contrast to their usual city lives. Beers were popped open, music filled the air, and the afternoon became a blur of laughter, barbecue smoke, and cornhole games. As dusk painted the sky in fiery colors, they settled around the fire pit. Suddenly, a harsh voice shattered their peaceful scene. A woman emerged from the shadows, her silhouette stark against the dying fire. "You city folks think you own the place? Turn that racket down and respect the lake," she shouted, her voice echoing across the water. The friends exchanged nervous glances. Matt, always the peacemaker, apologized and lowered the music. The woman, who introduced herself as Millie, ranted about tourists disrespecting her lake, littering the shores, and making too much noise. After Millie left, an unsettling quiet settled over them. They brushed off the encounter as a local being territorial, adding a strange twist to their adventure. Later that night, as the fire dwindled to embers, a scream pierced the stillness. It was Emma's voice, filled with raw terror. They all bolted upright, adrenaline surging. Another scream, this time from Tom, cut through the night, followed by a chilling silence. Panic gripped Jack. He and Matt grabbed the flashlight and the only kayak they had. Hearts pounding, they paddled onto the inky black water, their friends' screams echoing in their ears, each fading echo a blow to their hope. The once serene lake now felt vast and menacing. Their search was fruitless, the silence mocking their frantic calls. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm them, a blood-curdling scream, unmistakably female, came from the direction of the cabin. They paddled back urgently, muscles burning. When they reached the shore, an oppressive silence hung in the air. The cabin doors stood ajar, a single lamp casting an eerie glow inside. Fear twisted in Jack's gut. They cautiously approached the cabin, the silence broken only by their own breathing. Inside, everything was still. No sign of a struggle, no sign of their friends. The only anomaly was an overturned chair, as if someone had been yanked from it mid-motion. Panic turned to cold dread. They scrambled for their phones, desperate for a signal, but there was none. Matt's truck was still parked in the driveway, a beacon of normalcy in the nightmare. Desperate, they decided to drive back up the road. Seeking help, they spotted a lone house with a light on. Against their better judgment, they pulled into the driveway. The door creaked open, revealing Millie, her face a mask of disdain. Just then, a choked sob reached their ears. It was Tom, his voice weak but alive. Relief washed over them. Tom and Emma, pale and shaken, stumbled out of the woods. They spoke of two figures with axes emerging from the darkness, forcing them to flee. Lost and terrified, They had managed to hide and call for help. The police arrived, their flashing lights illuminating the night. A search yielded nothing. The woods seemed to swallow any evidence. The cabin showed no signs of forced entry, no missing objects, nothing to explain the disappearance. It was as if Emma and Tom had vanished into thin air. The following days were a blur of police reports, unanswered questions, and a gnawing sense of dread. Traumatized and shaken, they left Lake Serenity behind. Their idyllic getaway turned into a chilling nightmare. Weeks turned into months, but the mystery remained unsolved. No arrests, no explanations. The silence from the authorities was deafening. Jack, haunted by unanswered questions, couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. One evening, driven by insomnia and unease, Jack decided to dig deeper. He scoured online forums and local news archives, searching for any mention of disappearances near Lake Serenity. His search yielded a single, chilling result. A newspaper clipping from the 1970s, reporting the unsolved disappearance of a young couple from a cabin eerily similar to theirs. The details were sparse, but the similarities were undeniable. The secluded location, the sudden disappearance, the lack of evidence. It echoed their own experience. A cold dread settled over Jack. Were they part of a sinister pattern playing out for decades? Fueled by a sense of purpose, Jack contacted the reporter who had written the original article. The man, now retired, confirmed the story, his voice weary. There had been whispers of strange happenings around the lake for years, but nothing concrete. The case remained cold, another unsolved mystery gathering dust. The reporter's words fueled a fire in Jack. He convinced Emma, Matt, and Tom to return to Lake Serenity. This time, they were there to find answers. Armed with the old newspaper clipping and a renewed sense of urgency, they revisited the cabin. The silence was heavy, broken only by the cry of a loon. This time, their focus wasn't on the lake's beauty, but on the secrets it might hold. They meticulously searched the woods, eyes scanning for any clues. Then, Tom found something. A hidden clearing, partially obscured by overgrown foliage. In the center stood a dilapidated shack, radiating a malevolent presence. With trepidation, they pushed open the creaking door. Inside, the air was thick with damp earth and decay. A single shaft of sunlight illuminated a dusty table where a leather-bound journal lay. Hesitantly, Jack picked it up. The pages were filled with spidery handwriting, chronicling the life of a hermit who had lived by the lake decades ago. The entries spoke of a darkness in the woods, a force preying on the unsuspecting. The final entry was a chilling account of two young trespassers who vanished without a trace. The pieces clicked into place. The disappearances, the encounter with Millie. It was all connected. Millie seemed to be the guardian of a dark secret, a reluctant keeper of an evil legacy. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low growl echoed from the woods, a sound that sent primal fear through their veins. They knew they had to leave, and fast. They fled the shack, the diary clutched tightly in Jack's hand. Back at the cabin, they packed their belongings, hearts pounding. Without words, they knew they couldn't stay. As they drove away from Lake Serenity, the cabin shrank into the distance. The idyllic getaway had become a battleground against a darkness older than time. The mystery remained unsolved, but they had a chilling truth. Lake Serenity held a secret, a darkness that feasted on the unsuspecting. And they, forever marked by their encounter, would carry that knowledge with them. Weeks later, they shared their story with the reporter, hoping to expose the evil lurking beneath the lake's surface. The story gained little traction, dismissed as the ramblings of traumatized teenagers. The authorities, finding no physical evidence, labeled it a case of overactive imaginations. Despite the skepticism, Jack and his friends couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Strange occurrences plagued their lives, flickering lights, unsettling phone calls, and a sense of being followed. Whether it was trauma or something more sinister, they couldn't tell. One night, Jack dreamt of the cave system beneath the lake, the darkness pulsing with an unnatural light. He awoke with a gasp, drenched in sweat. A sudden urge to act overwhelmed him. He gathered Emma, Matt, and Tom, the diary in hand. "We can't let this go," he declared. We have to expose what's happening. His friends, though hesitant, understood. They had seen the darkness firsthand. Together, they decided to return to Lake Serenity, not as scared teenagers, but as determined truth seekers. This time, they weren't alone. Jack had contacted a local historian, intrigued by their story and the diary. The historian revealed the existence of a hidden society dedicated to protecting the lake and its secrets. With the historian's guidance, they embarked on a mission. Following clues in the diary and local lore, they searched for the cave system. The journey was dangerous. They navigated treacherous terrain and faced their fears. But driven by purpose, they persevered. Finally, they found a hidden crevice. Taking a deep breath, they entered the cave, the darkness swallowing them whole. The air grew thick, the silence broken only by dripping water and pounding hearts. Inside, they found a vast chamber with an altar and a figure in black robes chanting in an unknown tongue. A struggle ensued, a desperate clash against an ancient evil. In the end, they disrupted the ritual. A blinding light erupted, the earth trembling. They scrambled to escape as the cave collapsed. Exhausted but exhilarated, they emerged into the sunlight. Whether the darkness was vanquished or retreated, they didn't know. But they had won a battle. Back in civilization, the diary remained their proof and burden. The world might never believe them, but they carried the truth. The lake held its secrets, but for them, the nightmare was over. Or perhaps it had just begun.
Story 2. Terrifying boat chase at Saguaro Lake.
The Arizona sun beat down hard on Memorial Day weekend, marking the first real scorcher of the year. After endless COVID lockdowns, we, 4 high school buddies, Jake, the cautious leader, Ryan, the quick-witted prankster, Max, the level-headed problem solver, and myself, Nick, always up for an adventure. We're determined to celebrate our newfound freedom. Our chance came with a sleek cabin cruiser owned by Max's uncle. We planned to hit the Sandbar Social, a huge boat gathering in the middle of Saguaro Lake. The turquoise water sparkled like a million gemstones, with hundreds of boats clustered together, music thumping across the waves. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, celebrating the end of a long, dark year. Hours passed in a carefree blur. Max kept an eye on his uncle, who was enjoying the margaritas a bit too much. As dusk began to paint the sky, we realized we needed a sober captain to navigate back. Jake, usually the most level-headed, had also fallen victim to the festive spirit and couldn't drive. Max and I steered him below deck, tucking him into a plush guest cabin. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared, an unsettling feeling crept in. One by one, the other boats left, leaving us surrounded by an eerie silence. The vibrant party had turned into unsettling solitude. Suddenly, I noticed a flicker of movement on the water. A single boat, barely visible in the deepening gloom, was trailing us. Max, his brow furrowed, muttered about paranoia, but the boat remained a constant shadow, refusing to veer off. We quickened our pace, the engine's rumble echoing our nervousness. As we entered a narrow canal leading back to the marina, the shadow boat drew closer. 3 figures emerged from the cabin, their faces hidden by the dark. They yelled something, their voices distorted by the distance. Fear, cold and primal, gripped me. Max, adrenaline surging, steered us toward the dock with urgency. The men in the pursuing boat mirrored our move, pulling alongside just as we docked. Under the harsh glare of the dock lights, the menacing figures became clear. 3 men, faces etched with anger, stared down at us. Max, trying to defuse the situation, offered a shaky greeting. One of the men responded by brandishing a gun. We scrambled out of the boat, hearts pounding. The men, however, seemed uninterested in us. They shoved past, scanning the marina with predatory focus. Before we could react, they were heading straight for Max's uncle's boat. Panic seized us. Max, in a desperate lunge, tried to intercept them, but they moved swiftly. We watched, trapped in a nightmare, as they ransacked the boat. Within minutes, they vanished into the labyrinth of docked boats. Shaken, we stumbled into Max's uncle's house. Empty. The back door was ajar, a silent sign of the break-in. The sun rose, painting the sky with streaks of pink and orange, a stark contrast to the terror we'd endured. The police arrived, grim-faced as they surveyed the ransacked boat. No leads, no witnesses. The officer in charge, a grizzled veteran, offered a chilling theory. The following boat might have been a bait boat, diverting attention from Max's uncle's boat, rumored to hold a hidden safe. The days that followed were a blur of police reports and nervous glances. We knew the men might come back. Sleep became a stranger, replaced by constant fear. We were just kids caught in a web of violence, forever marked by the shadows of that Memorial Day. The nights were the worst. The silence of the Arizona desert was broken only by crickets and our own racing hearts. We took turns staying awake, a makeshift watch against the unseen enemy. Max, feeling guilty for involving his family, became withdrawn. Ryan, usually the jokester, grew quiet, a haunted look in his eyes. Jake, usually stoic, developed a nervous twitch. One suffocatingly hot night, as I sat guard by the window, I saw movement in the distance. A single boat, a silhouette against the moonlit water, drifted towards the marina. My breath caught in my throat. It couldn't be, could it? Fear paralyzed me for a moment, then survival instinct kicked in. I raced to wake the others, my voice tight with urgency. We huddled together, adrenaline pumping, forming a desperate plan. Max remembered an old shotgun in his uncle's garage. It wasn't ideal, but it was all we had. We dusted it off, the weight of the weapon heavy in our young hands. We positioned ourselves around the house, hearts pounding with the approaching engine noise. As the boat docked, 3 figures emerged. This time, we were ready. We waited in tense silence until they moved towards Max's uncle's boat. That's when Max, voice trembling but firm, yelled out a warning. The figures froze, caught off guard. A tense standoff ensued, the moonlight glinting off the shotgun. We threatened to call the police, a bluff that held little weight. Suddenly, a deep voice boomed from the shadows. A 4th figure emerged, taller and broader than the others, holding a gun, but it was pointed at his own men. "Enough," he growled. They saw nothing. Let them go. The tension dissipated quickly. The leader barked orders, and the men retreated to their boat. As the engine roared to life, they disappeared into the night, leaving us shaken but alive. The aftermath was a blur. The police were called, this time with a real story. They were skeptical, but when they searched the boat, they found a hidden compartment, now empty. The leader had ensured no loose ends. We never saw the men again. The leader remained a shadowy figure, his motives unclear. Was he a rival criminal or a twisted guardian? We never found out. But one thing was certain. The experience changed us forever. The carefree innocence of youth was gone, replaced by awareness of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. The lake became a place to avoid, a reminder of our brush with danger. But as time passed, fear receded, replaced by resilience. We learned that even in the face of darkness, courage and friendship could prevail. The memory of those shadows still haunted us, but it also reminded us of the strength we found within ourselves. The lake held its secrets, but for us, the nightmare was over. Or perhaps it had just begun.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to listen to similar stories in future.